Jazz hands. Hey there, people. It is your Pastor Purple, Tabitha. I am doing your kind of a reflection on the first month of COVID. I think this is going to run longer than the 5 to 7 minutes my normal videos work. So if you're not up for listening to my thoughts and reflections for longer than 5 minutes, then I understand. It's okay. For those of you that are, this is really just looking at what has been happening in the last month and a half since COVID has come to this part of the world. Of course, China and other places in Asia were dealing with it much earlier in the year and at the end of last year and had locked down, but now we're in the other half of the world and we're dealing with it now. And they're still kind of coming at the tail end of their situations. And so what is my reflection, having now been in a lockdown for just over a month? I think firstly, personality plays a really big issue here. If you didn't know that personality types were important, then this has really taught something. There was a moment where lots of introverts got to celebrate being inside and were really happy that they didn't have to be suffering with the extrovert people who were always trying to get them to talk. I don't think it's necessarily as clear cut as introvert and extrovert. I happen to be an ambivert, I've realised. I really like other people, but I don't necessarily need to talk to them because I'm quite introverted. And I obviously, for my living, I talk to people all the time, and I do that successfully and well and enjoy what I do, but it does cost energy and it does cost me a lot emotionally and spiritually, and I have to replenish. So I have kind of the ambivert personality where naturally I'm an introvert and like to be alone actually a lot of the time, but I like to be alone in a crowd. I'm a really weird person. But personality has played a real important factor to this. So, you know, introverts were asked for the first time, check on your extrovert friends, see how they're doing. And some introverts were like, no, I'm not doing it. My extrovert friends don't give a monkeys about me, and I'm not doing it for them. And of course, we can do unto others as we would like them to do unto us, or we can do unto others as they have done unto us. And I think those are choices we have to make. So personality types have really played an interesting role in how people have taken this. But I think also mental well-being as well has been a really, this is really beginning to take its toll mentally on people. And we will begin to see the effects of that, I think, over the next few months, and how that really has damaged or made positive gains. I don't know how much positively has been done, so it will be interesting to see how that works. Loneliness has skyrocketed, of course. Isolation has skyrocketed. There has been some studies to look at the numbers of searches on things like suicide, which seem to be on the increase, very sadly, in terms of the searches, not the number of suicides, you understand. So people interested in these areas, and of course that follows with other mental health patterns. And so I think it's really important to think how your personality type plays into your mental well-being and how you play to your strengths. Like, what do you do to ensure that you are doing the right thing for your mental well-being, that you're actually you're filtering some of the messages that you're sent? Which that brings me on nicely to, that was, you know, kind of the personality aspects, but the messages that were sent. Take a deep breath, people. This has been rough. I mean, we've had some really awful messages put out there that people have become rabbiting off down, conspiracy theory squirrel holes, where, you know, they've gone down the rabbit hole of a conspiracy theory and they're belittling other people for not believing the same theory as them, not believing, you know, all of these other things. It can get really ugly if there's a religious element to it, really not very pretty. So I apologise for anyone who's been on the receiving end of that. And so on and so forth. And these kind of, what messages were sent, you know, there's all of these motivational speeches that are always there all the time, but then the motivational speeches can take quite a nasty turn, where people were being told they were lazy because they were not writing their book or filming their new film or doing whatever it was that they had in their dream. You know, it's because you're lazy. It ain't because you ain't got time, because look at COVID, you've got time. Not everybody had time because it's COVID, you know. And just because you have time doesn't mean actually you can use it in that way, because, you know, if you've been laid off, you and you no longer have a job, you have worries like up to here about how you're going to pay your rent, etc. It's not so easy to just switch that off and then be like, yeah, I'm not going to look for a job. Yeah, because no, you're going to commit yourself to finding new work, to paying your bills, to working that all out. And that's a really long and tiring process. So those messages that were telling people they were lazy, get away from the fridge, you know, you fat this person, or, you know, all people are going to do is have sex, and then in 9 months we'll see all the COVID babies, etc., etc. And so really looking at how we filter our messages. We, for the first time, are subject to algorithms as a way of getting information, which means that we're being marketed to all the time through social media. Like, I say that really politely, and I think that that's really important for us to realise that our social media is targeted, and that it has not just in the adverts, but also the friends' information that posts up. You know, some of your friends will hold different views to you, and you will very rarely see posts from them. You will only see posts which agree with you. So therefore, you are constantly being fed a line and taken down a path. And you have to really be conscious about how you filter those messages and how you filter what's coming in. Which takes me to another point. People are looking at the skills that they have. They're looking at how tired they are. And this is really, I mean, it's really difficult, because I think on the one hand, we expect people to have more energy, to want to do things, but actually it's very tiring to work from home, or to do the extra steps. If you have to work outside of the home, there are 100 extra steps that you now have to do that you were not doing before, that are mentally draining, because you have to try and remember to keep your distance, stay clear of people, not touch, not do natural things that, you know, we've learned to just do naturally, like extend a hand and shake a hand, to actually hold that back and say, okay, no. And that costs a lot of energy, just talking it through in your own mind, like, you know, I don't want to come across rude, oh no, I think they've been offended, and, you know, all of these different factors. So it's cost energy. And I think acknowledging that people are actually tired, I know that they say like, you should be refreshed and blah blah blah, those are the messages you're being sent, but actually if you're working still, you can be incredibly drained. You know, people say, oh yeah, but you're lucky you've still got your job. Of course, absolutely. But that doesn't mean that it's not costing you extra to have that job, that you aren't actually more physically, emotionally, spiritually tired because you're taking extra steps that you are not used to taking. You've built in extra routines around cleanliness. You know, when you get to your car, you have to scrub and do this, or you have to wear gloves, or you have to, when you get to the house, strip down before you get anywhere and start a whole cleaning routine, which adds an extra layer of tired than you would be normally used to. So that aspect of being tired and really feeling like you need a break at the end of this period is real for a lot of people, especially critical workers like shop workers, you know, people who are out there on the front lines, on buses, public transport, and those places where they're not used to or didn't need to take all these extra steps. You know, arguably somebody will say, okay, the nursing staff, the doctors, and all of those people on the front lines of this are taking all these extra precautions which cost energy. But so are the garbage collectors, the bus drivers, the train drivers, the shop workers, the cleaners. All of those people that come into contact with us have so many extra steps that they're expected to take, often with no training on how to do it properly. So how difficult and how time consuming is that? How energy costing is that? And how worried are these people constantly thinking, actually colleagues of mine have gotten sick because they haven't done the thing properly. How do I do the thing properly? You know, it's really, really difficult out there. So I think there's this aspect of tiredness, which costing energy for people, which when this is over, how will they replenish themselves from the energy this is all cost? And will they have permanent changes to their routines and personalities as a result of this? You know, as a result of these precautions. So that's something. And then I think, how do we cope? How do we build relationships? Now, there's some arguments to be said, had these conversations with people who are like, some people have never spent this much time with their partner and their kids in their life. It's like they're living with brand new people for the first time. You know, you're locked in your house. The only people you can see are members of your family who live in your building, live in your house. And all of a sudden, it's like you've got a stranger in the next room. You know, there's a whole thread on the internet of like women who are like, oh my gosh, I married that guy who says this in a meeting, or guys who, you know, partners who are saying, oh my gosh, I married the woman who does this in a meeting. she's that guy, he's that guy, you know, when they have meetings at work. I did not know that. I did not know that, because for the first time, you're in spaces with your partner that you would not naturally be in. You know, not everybody does not work together. So of course, you're seeing them in an environment in which they are not acting like your spouse. They are acting like themselves, doing their professional work. And that has added some extra strain, you know. And I think about people who are spending a lot of time together. So we're in the same space, but aren't spending any quality of time together. So although we're in the same space 24/7, we're actually not doing the quality time together. So we're just side by side as he works and I works and we look after the kids and then we fall asleep at the end of the day. Whereas the quality time to get to know one another. And, you know, when we're talking about that relationship with children, with parents, you know, there's a whole generation of elderly people who are grandparents, great-grandparents, who have really felt the pain and the sting and the loss of family. But this has been coming for a long time because we've changed the way we care for the elderly. A lot of elderly people live in old people's homes, etc., and have their children have moved far from where they live, and so their regular visitations are actually not with family members. They're with their local WI, church group, reading club, library, whatever, and they miss all of that contact. And so it's important to try and reflect on all of those things that are being affected by this. We're not, not toilet paper and pasta, of course. And I'm sure, there's going to be some really interesting studies about panic buying and why people bought toilet paper during a pandemic. But I think it's really something for us to assess and to think about. So my reflections are really kind of on the things that I'm trying to think, how is this going to affect and shape society when we're finished? How is this going to work out? And then kind of my reflection on myself is this. I work as a pastor, as obviously you follow me, you know I work as a pastor. And as a female minister, I'm often placed in I'm never not a female minister. I'm always a female minister. There is always controversy just by breathing and being alive. You just have this constant narrative. And I obviously am not quiet, and I'm not, I'm outspoken. So of course, this also has a problem. I hate injustice, so I speak often when it comes to issues that I find unjust, and I think somebody needs to do something about this. I speak. So this lands me in trouble quite a lot, and I can spend a lot of my daily routine, a lot of my time in ministry actually just trying to re-educate people, talking about this issue. And quite frankly, at a certain point, I think over the last few years, I've gotten really tired of not doing what I feel God has called me to. And I've watched other female colleagues of mine either leave ministry altogether or change ministerial jobs because they were like, I can't keep having these conversations anymore. And so for the first time in the history of my ministry, I think, I have not answered a question really about being a girl. What's it like to be a girl pastor? Is your husband feeling happy about what you do? Did you beat him? Do you really? Do you wear the trousers at home? You're such a bully? Maybe girls shouldn't be pastors. Paul says that girls shouldn't lead, and Paul says that girls should be quiet. Why aren't you quiet? Why aren't you quiet? Are you sure you know who God is? Are you sure you're not a devil? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, no, I have not heard that. It's been amazing. Not to say there haven't been trolls. Please don't troll me right now. I'm tired. You'll get blocked. I'm not in the mood. But I haven't had that consistent fight that I would normally have to do my job. In fact, I've just been able to help those people that can take help with me. And the other side of it is I work cross-culturally. I work cross-language wise as well. So I have become bilingual over the last 4.5 years and have learned a second language. I would say proficient in getting around. However, it's a very particular language, and they would say that I still struggle. So that's been a real difficulty in operating, but this has been the first time when I've been able to just be and operate without the guilt that comes with not being able to speak the language adequately enough, or not really allowing people to feel comfortable, or feeling inadequate in the language, etc. I've actually just done ministry, so without some of that guilt. So that's been another side of it. So there's some personal reflections. And I think the other thing that I reflect upon is we are the type of family that do very well in isolation, it transpires. We actually enjoy isolation as a family. We're really happy. My husband is growing stuff and cooking all sorts of things. The kids are having art classes every day. They're really enjoying homeschool. They're really loving, you know, the contact they can have through whatever groups that they have in their school apps, but they're loving the whole experience. So when people ask me how we're doing, and I'm like, yeah, we're doing really good actually. Check on me when this is all over, because that's when I'll have difficulty. I have to reintroduce my family to the rest of the world. I think that'll be the difficulty. And so I do wonder how many families are like us. You know, there's a lot talked about the families that are struggling, but how many families are actually thriving and really are doing very well? But when they have to be reintroduced to the world, and they're going to have to start mixing all that sensory input, all of that overload from people and screens and requirements of others and social norms, etc., will actually cause them to want to go back to isolation, and will cause a real almost explosive moment. So those are some of my thoughts and reflections on this first month that we've had really in lockdown here in the Netherlands, really kind of, pacing ourselves as to what we do. These are my ideas, these are my thoughts. I mean, I'm happy to have some discussions with some other people. We could do a Zoom meeting, film it, and talk about what you've learned in the last month of being in isolation. I'd love to do that. So hit me up, like, share, subscribe, message, so that we can set up some conversation so that the people can hear what other people are experiencing during this time. Have a blessed one. I hope that the next month, because we have basically got social lockdown in the Netherlands until the 1st of June. All of these social places are closed until the 1st of June. Churches, football games, cafes, restaurants, etc. 1st of June is the date that we've been given. So we're closed for quite a few months, and we know that. So this is month 1. We've got month 2 coming, and we'll get started that. So pray us through, man. We can do this. God bless you, and see you soon. Bye-bye.